Hello everyone, and this is the second episode of the series where we are creating my personal website. So, this step we're going to be setting up Webpack to build our code and include and package everything for production. So we're going to get started by installing some presets. So we're going to use Yarn or some dependencies. So we're going to use Yarn to do that. Yarn add, and we want to install these as dev dependencies, so -d. We're going to start with Babel core, Babel loader, and then our Babel presets. So this first preset's job is to convert ES6 to ES5 so it can run on most browsers on the web. Our next one is our React preset. And then finally, I like using the Stage 2 preset because it adds a couple of newer experimental features to JavaScript that I really like. So let's just go ahead and get those added in. Great. Now we've got a second set. And these are our actual Webpack dependencies. So we're going to start with Webpack, of course. Then let's get our CSS related loaders. So we've got CSS loader. Then we've got Node.js. Sass loader, and finally style loader. So these dependencies load our Sass files, convert our Sass to CSS, package that CSS inside of our JavaScript file to be sent out to the world. So we'll go ahead and install those. And just to make sure everything looks right, let's open up our package.json, and you see we got our package files there and our Webpack files down here. Now, the last thing that we need to do in our package.json is we need to add a new key for Babel. And this tells Babel what presets we are using and in what order. Okay, so there's our Babel setup. Now our next piece is going to be our Webpack config. And was there an init for this? No, there isn't, so we'll just have to create it manually. So we'll create a new file in our project root called webpack.config.js. And to get started with this, let's go ahead and load Webpack. Actually, we don't need any of this. Let's just set up our export. So module exports equals our Webpack config object. So first we're going to give Webpack our context, and this is going to be the root of our React app. So context, and I'm going to use the new backtick quotes that let me include variables. This is new in JavaScript ES6. That's just to include the current directory name, class / client / app. Now, if you wanted to be proper about any of these paths, you could import the path library so that it can convert all your slashes and all that stuff, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. Next thing is we're going to tell it to include source maps. And this is something you could set up a condition for so that if you're packaging for production, you don't include the source maps. Up to you, doesn't hurt anything. Finally, we're going to tell it what our main.js file is. So entry. And this is all relative to our context. Now we're going to get into our loaders, which tell Webpack what files to scan for and what to do with them. So we do this with module. And that is an object with loaders, which is an array with each of our loaders. So first we're going to have our regex test for the file names. I'm going to say anything that starts with JS. I mean anything that ends with JS. Excuse me. Then we're going to exclude our node modules. And we're going to pass all these files, any file that matches this pattern, to loader. So that will take care of our pass all of our JavaScript files into Babel. Next, we're going to tell it to add all of our CSS files and SCSS files into our Sass loader to get compiled there. So we'll start with our test. And what this question mark right here is doing is it's saying that this S at the start is optional, so this will match any file that ends in SCSS or just CSS. And then the $sign means it has to be the end of the file name. So anything that matches that will pass through a series of loaders. We're going to start with, I believe this goes from right to left. So I will type these out and then we'll go through them one by one. So first thing it'll process is the Sass loader. Sass loader converts all of our Sass files to CSS files and then passes them to our CSS loader. Our CSS loader takes all our CSS files and gets them ready for Webpack to deal with. And then finally our style loader takes all our CSS files that have been loaded and inlines them in our JavaScript files so that as soon as our JavaScript loads, it pops the CSS into the page. Now there are some conditions where you wouldn't want to do this way. If you had large file sizes, your basic, and you had styling that was showing before your JavaScript loaded, you would not want to include your CSS this way. You'd want your CSS to have its own output that could be loaded quicker. But our page for right now is just going to be a blank page until our JavaScript loads, so it doesn't matter in this case. So our last step, now that we've told Webpack how to package everything, is I'm going to tell it where to output this. So output is going to be in the client path. And the file name is going to be app.min.js. Okay, so now let's run Webpack. First I need to make a simple app.js file inside of client that can be loaded by this. So app. First remember that this is in client/app is where our JavaScript is going to live. So app/app.js. Okay, so there's that file, and I'm just going to put a quick console log in here. So that when we run the page, we should see this was loaded. Now that we have that there, let's go ahead and run Webpack. Which reminds me, we installed Webpack in our local Node.js library. I have not installed this globally, and I don't want to. So what I'm going to do instead of running Webpack directly is I'm going to add another package.json script. And this is going to be Webpack. Actually, I'll just call it build. Really simple script. And the reason I'm doing this is because whenever npm runs a script, it automatically adds anything in node modules to the path. So because I have Webpack installed into my node modules, running it using the command inside of a build script or inside of a npm script, it will be able to find it. So now let's try that again. So this is telling me I have an error somewhere in my Webpack. Looks like we have a typo right here. Okay, so let's try that again. And we can see it built our application, and we should have a new file. Yep, app.min.js right here. While I'm at it, I'm going to add that to my gitignore file. because I don't want that committed. I want that to be dynamically generated. So now last step is to go into our HTML head and add a script tag. Actually, correct that. We add these at the bottom of the body. It doesn't really matter in my case since it's going to be a full JavaScript single page application. But if you wanted your HTML content to load and display first, so kind of like our CSS point earlier, you would load your JavaScript files at the end of your body. There we go. And let's reload this. Oh, need to run that. Okay. So just to double check what's going on, I expected an alert to pop up and I did not get one. So let's go to my sources. Double check this app.min. You can see all the Webpack files. And we've got the hello from ES6 there. Okay, so I'm suspecting that since it's an immediate, that this is being blocked. But we can see that our file was included by our HTML. So what else can I do to get this to pop up for us? I am not sure, but we can see that this is all connected and working. The final piece of this puzzle is now to make sure that this will run in Heroku. So I'm going to go into my package.json and add a Heroku post build step. So this job is going to be to run Webpack after Heroku has built the project, so that it will include our generated app.min.js file. So Heroku post build yarn I actually don't know what the command for this is. Oh, just type yarn. Okay, so yarn is the package to install all my dependencies. Then we're going to Webpack. Then we're going to npm prune. Forgive me, I need to look up a few of these commands. I was doing this with npm in my notes, and so I do not know the yarn equivalents for sure. So we're going to use our best encyclopedia, Google. Yarn install dev dependencies. Okay, so here's the reverse of what I want, installing just the production stuff. Okay, so Yarn does not install that, and unfortunately that is something I was using for Heroku, because Heroku sets its environment to production, which means our dev dependencies do not get installed. And because our dev dependencies did not get installed, we cannot use Webpack there. So I need to figure out how to do that, but for the moment I will switch to back to using the npm install way. So this is how that works. Install our dev dependencies, run Webpack, prune our web dependencies. Thanks for watching. See you next time.